from mental institutions and insane asylums. You know, the press is always on me because I say this. Has anyone seen Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He'd love to have you for dinner. Crazy Nancy Pelosi, the whole thing, just boom, boom, boom. And then we had that horrible, horrible result that we'll never let happen again. The election result, we're never going to let that happen again. They used COVID to cheat.
We have heard this kind of rhetoric from Trump before. But this time, Trump was supposed to be trying really, really hard to be softer and polite and somehow unifying. And this time, it comes as Democrats wrestle with an existential crisis about the future of their presumptive nominee, President Joe Biden. In just the past few hours, yet another high-profile Democrat Congresswoman, Zoe Lofgren, a key member of the January 6th committee, joined the chorus of Democrats calling on President Biden to step aside. The landscape is changing by the hour. And while Donald Trump may have squandered last night's opportunity to unify the nation, whether that will actually blunt the calls for Joe Biden to step aside, we simply do not know. And that is where we start this hour with senior political reporter at The Washington Post, Aaron Blake, plus former Obama campaign manager and MSNBC political analyst David Plouffe, and MSNBC columnist and contributor Charlie Sykes. And with me here at the table for the hour, host of Politics Nation on MSNBC and the president of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton. Charlie, I'll start with you. You know, this was, as I was going to say, it was reported that Trump was not going to say President Biden's name during last night's speech, that he was going to try to stay away from that and elevate himself. He couldn't do it. He went there anyway. Watch.
What this administration, the damage that this administration has done, and I say it often, if you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. Only going to use the term once. Biden. I'm not going to use the name anymore, just one time. The damage that he's done to this country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable.
So he resorted to his own to the old tactics. Does Donald Trump's performance last night, this rambling, undisciplined, all too familiar rhetoric, change the calculation for Democrats by underscoring just how vulnerable Trump is, just by letting him be himself and go out there and do what he does all the time?
Well, I don't know that it changes the calculation, but it certainly reminds everyone who Donald Trump is, that this is a man who is incapable of self-control and is capable of the kind of verbal diarrhea that we saw last night. But I do think the Democrats also need to look at him and go, why are we not beating this guy? Why is this convicted felon, this man has been found liable for rape, why is this ranter and raver, why is he leading in the polls? And I have to say that the extraordinary thing about watching that was how boring he was in that particular venue. Just briefly, before the convention session started, John Heilemann and I were sitting kind of in the empty hall, and we were watching the rehearsal for all of this as they were pumping up the music and the lights. We saw the videos, you know, and Kid Rock. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, all Donald Trump has to come out, all he has to do is just come out and say, I am here. And this crowd was so excited. They were so engaged. You know, it's quite an accomplishment to go from that level of excitement and anticipation to the boredom at the end, to watch these delegates yawning and looking at their watches. So all of this is a reminder who and what Donald Trump is, but also all of his flaws and vulnerabilities. But Democrats need to ask themselves, okay, we know all of this. We've known this for 8 years. Why are we at the moment we are right now?
Such a good question, David. Let me pick it up and ask you, because you've got the New York Times columnist David Brooks calling Trump's speech, quote, one of the truly awful and self-indulgent political performances of our time. David French called the speech, quote, boring. He said Trump has many flaws, but he's rarely boring. On the last night of the convention, he was. Charles Blow added this: Trump couldn't resist returning to his familiar darkness, thus wiping out the entire effort to rehabilitate and hide the real him. Did you see anything, David, to Charlie's point? Did you see anything in Trump's speech last night that should make Democrats feel optimistic that he is still the same old guy, still promoting the same kind of hateful ideology and doing it in the same degrading tactics?
Yeah, well, I think, in the other, waiting you in the finals is a team you can beat. You just have to make sure you've got the right team coming out of your conference. And so I think that in presidential politics, there's only two layups: your announcement speech. Now, most people who make their announcement speech don't become the nominee. And then if you're the nominee, your convention speech. It's really awfully hard to screw it up. And he did. And so I think now we should remind ourselves, however, that the vast, vast, vast majority of people who are going to be voting this election, including the vast number of swing voters, certainly people who are considering whether to vote at all, aren't going to see the speech. They may see some clips. And to the extent that they see that he was unhinged and, he said he was going to unify and he didn't, that's helpful. The big moment that needs to be circled, whether it's Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or somebody else facing off with him, is September 10th. That'll be the time where you have the biggest audience. And a reminder, most people who don't even watch the debate will experience it in the 24 hours after that on Instagram, TikTok, and other social media sites. So, no, it was a blown opportunity for Trump. And I think it reminds Democrats that this is somebody who can be beat. Now, we know in 16 and 20, he was a terrible vote getter, didn't get 47% of the vote nationally, narrowly won the Electoral College in 16, winning a bunch of states under 47, and, led to historically bad election outcomes in 18 and 22 as first party. So this is not somebody who's in the Hall of Fame of vote getting. However, he is a couple of points stronger this time than he was last time, more like 47, 48 in some of the battlegrounds than 45, 46. So what Democrats have to do is pull some vote off of him, get Democrats more excited, win a bunch of undecideds, pull vote off of him. And so listen, if everybody who was going to vote in this election was forced to watch that speech last night, some of those people would flee from him. And that's the challenge in the presidential campaign, is you got to prosecute a case against him each and every day, each and every hour, so that you win what exists out there, which is still the majority of people who don't want a return of Donald Trump to the White House.
Rev, to Dave's point about putting your best team forward, obviously the question right now about the position that the Democrats find themselves in, just let me share with you, just in the last couple of hours. I mean, last night you had Senator John Tester join the chorus of senators calling on President Biden to step aside. In the last few hours, we've had Zoe Lofgren. Now she's the third member of the January 6th Select Committee. Obviously somebody, again, very influential, certainly somebody well-known in Democratic politics. You spoke to the president recently. Give us a sense of what the landscape is right now, and whether or not the more names that come out, the more high-profile names, adds weight to his decision.
When I spoke with him last Monday, he was assuring me he was in the race. He was proud of what he had done. We talked about some things we did together in terms of the civil rights community, me and others working with him on the George Floyd executive order and other things. And he said, Al, I'm not giving this up. I want to finish the task. I need another term to do it, and I want you to hear from me. I'm in. And this was Monday. I think that people forget how committed he is to certain principles and to certain achievements. But at the same time, I think that, and I and others would say, that we're not going to push him off the stage or call for him to be removed. But we'll say to him, we need to make a sober analysis of whether or not we can continue that work and how best we do that. And that choice I'm willing to live with whichever way he decides to go. I think that it is very, to me, disturbing that you have so many Democrats getting in the way of talking about how horrific last night was for the Republicans by using today to tell their president to step off the stage. I mean, all the Democrats ought to be on the message of what Donald Trump did last night, rather than trying to, for whatever reasons they are, some of them trying to play politics in their own states and districts, to get in the way of the message of today. You had people, I mean, the most anti-immigration, anti-rights convention I've seen. Hulk Hogan is your new symbol of the Republican Party, and you're trying to deal with a president who, at his worst day, delivered on many of the things that we definitely needed. I was very disappointed in some of them. I see the Congressional Black Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, a lot of them who were the ones that gained the most movement have not come out against this president. Maybe it's because we feel we have the most to lose. We're not drinking Kool-Aid, but we're certainly not going to take shots at people that never backed away from us.
Aaron, for their part, the Biden campaign put out a statement saying, quote, last night the American people saw the same Donald Trump they rejected 4 years ago. For over 90 minutes, he focused on his own grievances with no plan to unite us, no plan to make life better for working people. Americans know exactly where he wants to take this country. Donald Trump's dark vision for the future is not who we are as Americans. That does not sound like someone who's getting out of the race. What is your reporting telling you about the Biden campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's important to note that nobody ever entertains the idea that they're going to drop out of a race or says that they might not run until the moment comes when they actually do it. And certainly there is some signals from, at least close to the Trump team, if not at the highest levels, that these are things that are at least being considered in a way that they weren't before. I think the convention last night and Trump's speech in particular, it's kind of two takeaways for Democrats. One is that if you're looking at this speech and you're saying, wow, that was kind of a mess, he rambled, he ad-libbed, 75% of this speech was ad-libbed from the script. So he didn't really drive a coherent message. It was very dark. It was not uniting. You look at that and say, that's a guy we can beat. He's more popular than he was when he was president, but we can bring that down. But I think the way a lot of Democrats look at this right now is, yes, that shows the opportunity here if we can have somebody who can actually drive that message. And I think right now, as President Biden is dealing with his COVID, that it's a difficult situation for him. But even since the debate, we haven't seen him out there on a consistent basis, really driving a message, even in the interviews that he has done, driving a consistent and coherent message against former President Trump. And I think that's really what a lot of these Democrats are hoping to get right now, and that's why they're willing to entertain these alternatives.
Charlie, let's go back to the speech for a moment. There is an argument that some voters are suffering from Trump amnesia, that we may have not been paying attention to him over the past 4 years because we've wanted to kind of just ignore him and forget everything about him and what he has done. And they've forgotten how truly traumatic and deeply weird Trump's presidency was. Then you had last night's speech reminding us again of that. Take a listen.
They look like yachts. I said, we have to take the bow and we have to make it a little nicer and a little point at the top instead of a flat nose. And the people at the shipyard said, this guy sort of knows what he's doing. We have the most beautiful ships, right? I could stop wars with just a telephone call. We will have our next Republican convention in Venezuela because it will be safe. I got along very well. North Korea, Kim Jong-un, I got along very well with him. The press hated when I said that. How could you get along with him? Well, it's nice to get along with somebody that has a lot of nuclear weapons. I think he misses me, if you want to know the truth.
So if there's anyone really who has lost complete mental acuity, it is that guy. I mean, let's just be honest about it. And the question is, we haven't been paying attention to him for the past 4 years because we've wanted to forget him. But could refreshing voters' memories about what Trump is really like snap voters out of this kind of like so-called Trump amnesia, or have we all become numb to it?
Well, this is an excellent question. I've been thinking about the fact that, or the feeling that we've fallen into some sort of vast memory hole over the last few months. Do we remember who this man was, what he has done? And you certainly felt as if the Republicans gathered with complete amnesia. The fact that you have just nominated a convicted felon, all of the things that we know about him. So I think that is true. And as David mentioned before, though, we need to keep reminding ourselves that the vast majority of Americans did not see that. So this is the task between now and November, to make it very, very clear who Donald Trump is, what he has done, and remind people about that. Now, that, I think, is a key issue that Democrats need to think about, because if it is two elderly men, dueling accusations of that you're losing cognition or that you are too old, it's going to be fuzzed up somewhat. If the Democrats change their course, then the focus can really shift to what you just mentioned. We have been embroiled in this big discussion as Joe Biden lost his fastball, is he too old, where we have not focused that spotlight on and what's going on with Donald Trump. this is not the same guy that we saw in 2016 or 2020. He's clearly losing something. There's something going on. There is this narcissism and the lack of impulse control that we have known about, but it seems to be getting worse. This is one of the questions. Is the focus of this campaign going to be on the question of Joe Biden and his fitness, or is it going to be a referendum on, do we really want to go down the Donald Trump path again?
Yeah, and of course, because the magnification of the Trump GOP, you cannot expect the GOP to act like reasonable adults and have the debate that the Democrats are having about their cult leader right now. No one is going anywhere. We've got a lot more to talk about regarding Trump's wild and meandering speech last night and the return of vintage Trump. Plus, we're going to have much more on the turmoil inside the Democratic Party. Yet more House Democrats, as we mentioned earlier, calling for President Biden to step aside as new reporting suggests that the Biden family is discussing a possible exit plan. We're going to talk with a former Democratic congressman. And later on in the program, we're going to come back to our top story and what Donald Trump didn't mention last night, including his fondness for the violent extremists that stormed the Capitol on January 6th. And of course, those stories, much, much more when Deadline White House continues after this. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to the Waiverhood. With Wayfair, finding your style is fun.
Again, when the music stops, grab any chair. Doesn't matter if it's your outdoor style or not.
I'm sorry, Carl. This is me in chair form.
I don't see it.
Oh, come on. This one's perfect for you. But you love it.
I told you we should have done a piñata.
I explained it so many times.
Mm-hmm. They're not sitting. You need to sit down.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Fruit and vegetable ingredients have never been more convenient.
It's easy for me to recommend Balance of Nature. It's so simple. It's amazing getting the fruits and vegetables ingredients in 3 red and 3 green capsules.
I take Balance of Nature. I think it's a good product. It's convenient. It's a way to start off with a plus. I can do little capsules in the morning and I'm off to work, you know.
I would recommend Balance of Nature. It's so easy to do every day. I really am happy that I came across it. I feel great, and who doesn't want to feel great?
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set. Get this limited time offer by using discount code LOVE. Due to popular demand, this offer is being extended.
Homeowners, when your water or sewer line breaks, it's expensive and often not covered by basic homeowners insurance.
You could pay thousands.
Finding a good contractor can be tough.
Want this guy doing the job?
With a plan from HomeServe, call us. We'll send a contractor, and there's no big bill.
Easy.
But don't wait. Get a plan from HomeServe before a line breaks.
Go online now.
Plans from HomeServe start at just $7.99 a month.
Call 1-833-735-4495 or visit homeserve.com.
I got this $1,000 camera for only $41 on DealDash.
DealDash.com. Online auctions since 2009. This PlayStation 5 sold for only 50 cents. This iPad Pro sold for less than $34. And this Nintendo Switch sold for less than $20.
I got this KitchenAid stand mixer for only $56. I got this barbecue smoker for $26.
And shipping is always free.
Go to DealDash.com right now and see how much you can save.
After careful review of medical guidance and research on pain relief, my recommendation is simple. Every home should have Salonpas. Powerful, yet non-addictive. Targeted and long-lasting. I recommend Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Looking for a smarter way to mop? Try the Swiffer Power Mop. An all-in-one cleaning tool with a 360-degree swivel head that goes places a regular mop just can't. Mop smarter with the Swiffer Power Mop.
Saturday, September 7th, Brooklyn, New York. It's MSNBC Live Democracy 2024, our premier live audience event. Maddow, Psaki, Reed, Hayes, Kornacki, and more. Visit msnbc.com/democracy2024 to buy your tickets.
In that spirit, the Democrat Party should immediately stop weaponizing the justice system and labeling their political opponent as an enemy of democracy. especially since that is not true. In fact, I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country.
If you believe Donald Trump is the one saving democracy, I have a bridge that I want to sell you. We're back with Aaron, David, Charlie, and Rev. David, it's classic Trump gaslighting here, suggesting that it's the Democrats who are weaponizing the Justice Department when he has called himself the retribution candidate, the man that is going to go out there and prosecute and investigate. This is the guy who chanted in 2016, lock her up, and threatened to go after his political enemies all throughout that campaign.
Yeah, well, this is the case that needs to be made. I mean, sadly, probably 40% of the country believe Donald Trump is the one that will protect democracy. But again, there's a majority of Americans who understand someone who refused to engage in the peaceful transfer of power, who refuses to say he'll abide by these election results, who doesn't think the person who gets the most votes necessarily wins, who fomented an insurrection, and has been very clear that he's going to turn the entire United States government into his own personal playpen to settle scores. And that's not going to help anybody at home who's living paycheck to paycheck. He's going to be focused on rounding up Democrats to investigate them, not rounding up Democrats to help pass important legislation to bring down prices and grow jobs. So this is the case that needs to be made. The picture has to be painted of the 4 years if Trump's president, the 4 years if the Democrat's president. And if Joe Biden is going to end up being our nominee, the hardest thing for an incumbent to do is to understand elections are about the future. You can be proud of your record, but you've got to paint the picture about the next 4 years. And that can be based on things you want to get done. But I think this finish the job message to me, while I believe in it, and I think Joe Biden's been a really, really important and great president, a political contest is not just simply a job performance review about your last year, in this case 4. You got to make that case. And I think part of the case here is this is a guy who, and when you say anti-democracy, that doesn't work with voters.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't understand what that necessarily means, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got to explain what it means. Should the person who gets the most votes win? Should we have peaceful transfer of power? Should we use the Department of Justice to investigate political opponents? Should we use the IRS to go after people? Should we fire people with expertise all across the government and put in non-qualified MAGA people because it's part of a loyalty test? People don't want that. And then you've got to connect the dots and say, that's not going to help you or your family. And that's, I think, the case that has to be prosecuted. And so assuming there is a debate on September 10th, that has to be front and center in terms of the execution of our candidate.
Yeah, and let's not forget the Republicans wanting to give power to state legislators to basically overthrow the results of an election and let state legislators cast the electors, as we saw in that Supreme Court decision. But I got to ask you, Charlie, about what we saw. I mean, conventions always have their kind of quirkiness to them. You see people in costumes, you see people in all kinds of different outfits and stuff. But talk to me about these images that we saw of folks walking around with bandages on their ear. This kind of blatant sycophancy seems like a new chapter in the MAGAification and the Trumpification of the GOP. I mean, this is not normal.
Oh, no. Again, nothing about what's happening now is normal. But yes, this has been a cult for some time, and you can see that it was ramped up. The shooting on Saturday, I think, stunned people at first, but by the time they gathered here in Milwaukee, it was clearly what galvanized them. It gave a lot of anti-Trump, anti-Trump folks, Trump skeptics, the permission that perhaps they had been looking for to embrace them. But yeah, going around with the bandages is in many ways just one more symbol of the way the Republican Party is in such complete and total thrall to this one man. And I think this point has been made, but it can't be made too strongly. In a Trump 2.0 presidency, anyone who thinks that the Republican Party will be a restraining force or will be a guardrail is naive and has not been paying attention. For the last 8 years, we've been asking the question, well, what is the red line? When are Republicans going to push back? When are they going to find some principle? I think that's gone. I mean, this convention marked the complete MAGAification of the Republican Party. And of course, that with the exclamation point to that was the selection of J.D. Vance and, of course, that kind of symbolism.
Yeah, absolutely. Rev, you know, even when he is trying to be unifying, and I don't think he was, but that's how he billed himself, he couldn't but help himself and insult people of color. Listen to this.
Today, our cities are flooded with illegal aliens. Americans are being squeezed out of the labor force and their jobs are taken. And by the way, you know who's taking the jobs that are created? 107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens. And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population.
Your thoughts on that messaging of turning communities, minority communities, against one another by making them believe that somehow undocumented workers in this country are hurting Black Americans and Hispanic Americans?
Well, he would, if one were to have an intelligent conversation with him, which is in and of itself
a rarity,
a challenge. Where's the documentation of that? This is the man during the debate that said they're taking the black jobs. And I think President Biden skillfully said last week in a speech, the black job now is the vice president of the United States. And he went on to list other things. He has been always one that was considered by many of us in his home city biased. I mean, here's a man who the Justice Department found discriminatory, he and his father, in their housing developments in terms of renting to people of color. They wouldn't rent. They would write C for colored on the applications. This was found by the Justice Department. And his whole thing of advocating the death penalty for the Central Park Five, who ended up being innocent. So he really has this real feeling about people of color. I mean, who else in their right mind would say that a race of people identify with him because of a mugshot, which is really saying they're all criminals, so they all relate to me being a criminal, because they're criminal. That's what he's really saying. And to think that this man thinks this is the way to get black voters shows you how out of touch and insensitive he is. And that is why I agree with David. You've got to talk about what you're going to do the next 4 years, not the last 4. Part of what I think President Biden can be saying is, because this Supreme Court that Donald Trump has seated has taken away women's rights to choose, has taken away affirmative action, has made serious damage to voting rights. The next 4 years, I'm going to fight and use the executive branch and the fact that I may get 2 selections on the Supreme Court to restore the rights that we had and build forward so we can have more Kamala Harrises and others. That's what you need to project. What we need to not only do is project the next 4 years, but talk about what we lost because of the 4 years of Donald Trump. And that is basic rights for women, for gays, for blacks, for Latinos. And every time Trump opens his mouth, he reminds us that that is what he intended to do.
Aaron, one of the running themes, if you will, throughout this convention was a reminder to the never Trumpers, the few that may be out there, that you will ultimately come and kiss the ring and bend the knee, as we saw, not only with the appointment of J.D. Vance, who had called Trump America's Hitler, but you saw Ron DeSantis, you saw Nikki Haley, and what I would argue 2 low points in their careers, to come back in front of that crowd and pledge their fealty once again to Donald Trump after categorically rejecting him during the primaries. What does that say about those that are now on the outside of the MAGA wing of, or the MAGA GOP, if you will, and whether or not there are is there anyone out there that is willing to at least speak up?
I mean, this is the story of the Republican Party over the last 8 years. If you want to be a Trump critic, you lose your job. If you want to criticize Trump and then get back on board, you can be his vice presidential selection. You can get back in the good graces of the base. I thought a really telling moment on this was J.D. Vance's acceptance speech of the vice presidential nomination. It was kind of similar to Trump's speech in certain ways, where it started out with at least a tonal appeal to unity and then moved into something entirely different. And J.D. Vance basically started out by talking about the idea that Republicans can have healthy disagreements about things, but they need to come together. And then as the speech went on, he gave a pretty direct challenge to the more interventionist, the more hawkish foreign policy types in his party, the more corporate aligned portions of his party, basically telling them that they need to get on board, like get with the program, because this is what the party is defined by right now. And I thought that was a really interesting decision that the Trump campaign made. It was almost, it's to your point, like it was getting people in line and basically kind of wearing down the critics in this party, who, by the way, weren't really at this convention. Like, you know, the Mike Pence's and those categories of people weren't at this convention. And so we had a whole show that was devoted to this MAGA worldview. And J.D. Vance goes out there and basically says, look, this is the way it is now. And I think that the message sent to the rest of the Republican Party is like, you do need to get on board. This is the party now. Take it or leave it.
And you can see Trump and the Trump family relishing that from their box. It had the feel of a third world dictatorship, him watching everyone parade up on that stage and basically pledge their loyalty to him. Aaron Blake, David Plouffe, Charlie Sykes, thank you, all of you, for starting us off today. Rev, stick around. I've got a lot more to talk to you about. Up next, the conversation about who should make the case against Donald Trump continues in the Democratic Party, even as the Biden campaign insists that the president is staying in the race.
If you're shopping for a home, Realtor.com's Real Commute tool lets you find homes close to work, school, even grandma's house.
Don't all apps do that?
Not really. Trust the #1 app real estate professionals trust.
I'm out here telling people how they can save money with Experian. With Experian, you can see your recurring subscriptions. And with one click, you can cancel it.
I'd like that.
It's so easy, I think even Asher can do it.
That's amazing. Thanks, bud.
Get started now with the Experian app.
Oh, man, I love a good hotel breakfast.
Same.
Yeah, so close to the stadium. I managed to get the last room for $190.
I booked the last room a week ago.
I booked yesterday. One night, $140.
What?
How?
Some sites panic you into booking their last room, but they don't have all the availability. Instead, use Trivago. Trivago compares hotel prices from hundreds of sites, so you can save up to $50 a night.
Well, at least I got the last ticket to the game.
So did I.
Hotel? Trivago.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. If you have or are eligible for Medicaid, please listen closely. You may be eligible for a Medicare Advantage plan from WellCare with a $0 or low plan premium. Call now. We can answer your questions and help you enroll over the phone. WellCare provides access to essential benefits that go beyond original Medicare, such as dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage with free home delivery, free over-the-counter health care items, free fitness benefits, and WellCare's telehealth services, including online doctor visits. Plus, extra benefits including the WellCare Spendables debit card, which you can use for additional dental, vision, and hearing costs, gas and groceries, as well as over-the-counter health items. WellCare is contracted with Medicare to provide plans that may be right for you. Call 1-855-410-9525. Now, that's 1-855-410-9525.
We need a small business loan fast.
I got this.
Loan Falcon!
There's a better way to get a fast small business loan. Go to OnDeck.com, and if approved, get your funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
Kids love summer break, but parents, well, Care.com makes it easy to find background-checked childcare that fits your summer schedule, from long-term to short notice. Give yourself a break this summer. Go to Care.com now.
At Harry's, we designed our razors to start sharp and stay smooth, so your 8th shave is as smooth as your first. And at as little as $2 per blade, they cost half of what the other guys charge. Wake up to Harry's. Get your trial set for just $7 at harrys.com/smooth.
We're coming together for our yearly service project and running a t-shirt fundraiser through Custom Ink to help the cause. Plus, their design services team helped us get a design we love. Come together for a cause. Get started today at customink.com.
Hi, I'm David, and I lost 92 pounds on Golo. My life partner Connie and I were in really rough shape regarding our health, and our doctors told us that we needed to lose weight. I saw a Golo commercial and I thought, we really need to try this. As the weeks went by, the weight came off. We learned to make healthy choices and be supportive of each other. Together, we've lost 170 pounds. Golo worked for us. Since losing weight on Golo, I'm feeling grateful and hopeful about the future.
We know that we've slipped a bit from the debate, and we know that the president has to prove to the American people exactly what he believes, that he's in this to win this, he can do this, he is our nominee, and he's going to be our president for a second term.
All right, that was Chair of the Biden-Harris campaign, Jen O'Malley Dillon, this morning, acknowledging that while there has been a slip in support, President Joe Biden will remain in the race. The campaign's public comments come as NBC News reports today that the president's family has started discussing his exit plan from the 2024 race. And the calls from Democrats on Capitol Hill for President Biden to step aside continue to mount. As we have mentioned, close Nancy Pelosi ally Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren called on President Biden to exit, citing the threat Donald Trump poses. Here she is on the network earlier, laying out her case.
I think it's telling that members of the January 6th committee, myself, Adam Schiff, Jamie Raskin, have all suggested that he step aside and that we get another candidate who can beat Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a threat to America and the world. He cannot be elected. He must not be elected. And so we've asked the president to look at that. Obviously, this is his decision. But it's not about him, and it's not about me. It's about America.
Joining our conversation now, former Democratic Congressman of Ohio, Tim Ryan, the Rev, is also back with us. Congressman, it's great to have you on the show. Let's talk a little bit about that messaging and the number of people and whether or not it matters who comes out and calls for the president to step aside, or is it at this point a matter of numbers?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, these allies of Nancy Pelosi, I think the story from Nancy Pelosi's talk with the president and then Mike Donilon, I think those are all indicative of how the pressure that's working its way up through the House leadership, the pressure that worked its way up through the Senate leadership, and then you saw Tester and Heinrich, people who are in cycle running races. Those are signals. And I think what we'll see, I'm thinking that if something doesn't happen here in the next couple days, you're going to see a lot of members of the House. You're going to see more members of the Senate come out. And so I think it's both strategic, but also the volume that I think will be increasing here in the coming days.
What do you personally think is the best path forward? Do you still believe that the vice?
I think we've seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks her really get her voice, hit her stride. She understands the international and domestic issues inside and out. And I just see her as someone who could absolutely both prosecute the case against Trump in the campaign sense, not let him get away with what he got away with in the debate, not let him get away with what he got away with last night, 22 lies last night, 30 from the debate. She would not let him get away with that. And then you look at the issues that we have to run on, the choice issue, the justice issues, the economic issues, where we've reindustrialized the country, and she's been a part of the most pro-union administration in the history of the country, probably since Roosevelt. Like, she could deliver that message. She's going to energize our base. She's going to pull in young people. But I think most importantly is that this country is dying for an aspirational message about how we can lift America out of this morass that we've been in really since the Vietnam War, where we had this toxic politics. People are ready for aspiration. Artificial intelligence, how do we dominate it? How do we use that to improve our healthcare, improve our education? The blockchain, how do we reinvent government? How do we heal veterans with new ways of healing trauma? How do we build chips and electric vehicles, all this stuff that we want to do here in the industrial Midwest? Like, she could elevate this conversation. And I just want everybody to know, do you realize how small Donald Trump will look to a Kamala Harris into an elevated message like that? He's going to shrink. And during the debate, she will destroy him. And America can come together around healing and cooperation. I just think a generational change puts us at a significant campaign advantage and messaging advantage. And I think we blow Trump out, and I think we win the House, and I think we have the chance to hold on to the Senate.
Rev, obviously when President Biden campaigned as a generational, transitional president to the next generation of Democratic leaders. Kamala Harris was that choice as the vice president. Obviously now she, by anyone's estimate, would be the front runner. But you're not seeing more Democratic politicians who are calling on President Biden to step aside to also make her or choose for her to be the nominee or to endorse her.
Well, one of the things that I think that is very concerning to a lot of us is, one, not to appreciate what Joe Biden has done and to get into this whole thing of trying to push him off the stage in this way. As we talked about, I talked to him last Monday, but weekend before last, I spent some time with Vice President Harris in New Orleans at the Essence Music Festival. No one is more loyal standing by the president than Vice President Kamala Harris. I mean, in private, one-on-one, and we've known each other 25 years. She said, Al, we've got to stand by the president because what we've done together. Having said that, who would be better to defend his legacy, even if he's still there as he defends it, than the one who did it with him? That was his co-pilot. What qualifies Kamala Harris is everything that was just said. But what qualifies us, he chose her to be the person to, in case of anything, to step in that seat. And he reiterated it this week. And I think that it is extremely important. For me, if it falls a lot, and I'm not calling for this, but I'm saying if it happens that Kamala Harris is there as the presidential candidate, because I cannot see if Joe Biden, for any reason that I could not figure out, steps aside, it would have to go to her. And no one would be able to explain it.
And there's also the Democratic argument that out of all of the primaries held, both her and the vice president have received the 14 million votes from the Democratic primary voters. So it goes to her.
When we voted for Joe Biden, we voted for him to say, and this is who can take the reins. So anything else would be very unacceptable. But if that were to happen, it would be the battle of all time to have the prosecutor against the felon. I would love to see the prosecutor versus the felon. That would be a debate to have. One had to check on their schedule. The other had to check with their parole officer. Could they come to the debate?
All right, Rev. Tim, please, Congressman Ryan, please stick around. We've got a lot more to discuss. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll come back and discuss this a little bit more.
I have an obligation to find a way of telling this story that is fresh, that has angles that haven't been used in the course of the day, to bring my experience working in the Senate, working in journalism for many years, to try to make sense of what has happened in that news day and help you make sense of what it means to you and what it's going to mean to you tomorrow and what it's going to mean to you next year.
You need T-Mobile home internet with 5G.
Wait, T-Mobile has home internet?
What a feeling to have T-Mobile now.
Hey, honey. Looks like my to-do list grew. Paint the bathroom, give Baxter a bath, get life insurance. Have a few minutes. I could do that now.
Oh, that fast.
Remember that Colonial Penn ad? I called and I got information. They sent the simple form I need to apply. All I do is fill it out and send it back.
Well, that sounds too easy.
Give a little information, check a few boxes, sign my name. Done.
They don't ask about your health?
No health questions.
Physical exam?
Don't need one. It's Colonial Penn Guaranteed Acceptance Whole Life Insurance.
If you're between the ages of 50 and 85, your acceptance is guaranteed in most states, even if you're not in the best health. Options start at $9.95 a month, 35 cents a day. Once insured, your rate will never increase. A lifetime rate lock guarantees it. Keep in mind, this is lifetime protection. As long as you pay your premiums, it's yours to keep. Call for more information and the simple form you need to apply today. There's no obligation, and you'll receive a free beneficiary planner just for calling.
Call 1-800-650-6900 for your free information and your free beneficiary planner. That's 1-800-650-6900. There's no obligation. That number again is 1-800-650-6900. Call now.
Then you take me by the hand. I feel better again. Oh, I feel better now.
Life is better with the credit gods on your side. Rewards once available to the few are now accessible to the many. Credit One Bank. Get cashback rewards and live large.
When you use Angie for your home projects, you know all your jobs will be done well. Roof repair? Done well. Emergency plumbing? Done well. So the next time you have a project, join the millions of homeowners who use Angie to care for their home. Get started at Angie.com.
I can only juggle so many things. That's why I use HomeAglow. It's easy to find reliable house cleaners to keep my daily life balanced. They even do my laundry. And the best part? My first cleaning was just $19. So go to HomeAglow.com and find out why thousands of customers just like me are switching to HomeAglow for a cleaner home at a more affordable price.
In recent days, they've been trying to portray themselves as the party of unity. But here's the thing. If you claim to stand for unity, you need to do more than just use the word. You cannot claim to be for unity if you try to overturn a free and fair election. Do we believe in the promise of America? And are we ready to fight for it? And when we fight, we win.
All right, that was Vice President Kamala Harris lighting up the campaign trail yesterday in Fayetteville, North Carolina. We are back with Tim Ryan and Reverend Al Sharpton. And Rev, I mean, that is the message that we were talking about. That's the energy that you need. That's the kind of voice you need to prosecute with these very sharp, simple messages that resonate, and you hear it in the crowd.
You hear it in the crowd, you see the reaction. Like I said, she came to the Essence Music Festival, went in the Superdome on stage, 60,000 people cheering. She definitely has the way to energize the base voters, not only women, not only blacks, but base voters around this country. And that is why and I'm speaking for me here, don't understand these people that are trying to say the president ought to not run. They're not saying, but I would go with the vice president. They're not saying anything, which makes us wonder, what are the real motives that you have? Are you trying to play at the expense of the president to save your little congressional seat or whatever you think you need to do? Because it does not seem to me that you could have one without the other. It was the Biden-Harris ticket. I was one of those that wanted to see him have a black woman run for vice president. He had committed to a black woman in the Supreme Court. He did both. Yeah. He did both. And now we're acting like, well, that's not a natural succession if he were to decide to do something different, which she doesn't want him to do from what she said to me, and I don't want him to do. But if he did, I don't even know what the debate is about.
Of course it should be here. Congressman Ryan, let me go back to a point also that the vice president made in that speech, talking about what the Republicans left off of their convention. They did not talk about reproductive rights or women's rights. They did not talk about Project 2025. They did not talk about how they're going to be undermining democracy. They did talk about mass deportations, though. That got the crowd riled up. She is someone who can blunt their message and go on the offense with what's at stake here.
100%. And I think what you just saw there and what Reverend Al saw last week as well, happy warrior. I mean, you think about, all of our great presidents, whether, Roosevelt, Kennedy, Reagan as a Republican, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, they were happy warriors. But they helped us really understand. You think back to the Clinton campaign, the world was changing. The wall fell, globalization, automation was, and Clinton was trying to help us understand through that campaign what we needed to do as a party to help average people deal with the changes. And I think what I've watched over the last 3.5 years is the vice president really command the knowledge needed to help the American people understand that, look, it's not the doom and gloom that Trump was talking about. We have a lot of challenges. We have structural problems. We need a whole campaign of reform of government and the institutions. But you need someone to say, we can only do this if we do it together. And let's take some joy in the process, in the aspiration. And what I've just been so impressed with over the last few months is watching her do that. And to me, and I know maybe the Rev and I may have a little bit of a disagreement here, I think that I would love for her to be in Ohio, in Western PA, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in these states. She would thrive. The working class people here would love her. And we just got to give her a chance to make that reindustrialization message here, and we'll have a significant win. I really believe that.
Yeah, it's exactly what you need right now, someone who can energize the party and get people excited. Former Congressman Tim Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Rev, you're sticking around. We've got a little bit more to talk to you about. A quick break from us. We'll be right back.
Lumify?
It's kind of amazing.
Wow. Lumify eye drops dramatically reduce redness.
In 1 minute.
And look at the difference. My eyes look brighter and whiter for up to 8 hours.
Lumify really works.
See for yourself.
Missing out on the things you love because of asthma? Get back to better breathing with Fasenra, an add-on treatment for eosinophilic asthma that is taken once every 8 weeks. Fasenra is not for sudden breathing problems or other eosinophilic conditions. Allergic reactions may occur. Don't stop your asthma treatments without talking with your doctor. Tell your doctor if your asthma worsens. Headache and sore throat may occur. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection. Step back out there with Fasenra. Ask your doctor if it's right for you.
They say, Lauren, what's the secret to a long, sustained relationship?
It's Blue Chew.
Blue Chews.
Blue Chew?
Blue Chew. Blue Chew. Blue Chew. Blue Chew is an online subscription-based service that sends these affordable tablets directly to your home. No one even has to know.
The best things in life come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 thumbs up. And now, buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, 2 months free. All with fast, reliable, nationwide coverage. Make the switch today.
Hey, I'm Brian Gary, and today we're talking about the biggest misconception there is about replacement windows. I'm here with Ted Coons, the project manager for Renewal by Andersen, to talk about it.
Yeah, one of the big things we hear from homeowners is, I shouldn't need to replace my windows, they're just not that old. But here's the thing, home builders put in high-end kitchens and bathrooms and low-end windows that just aren't that good. So even if your windows are only 7 to 10 years old, they may still need to be replaced.
Ted, there's so many window companies out there. What's different about your company?
Well, besides being the full-service replacement window division of Andersen,
when it deployed a faulty update to computers running Microsoft Windows. Several major U.S. hospitals were forced to cancel surgeries and doctor's appointments amid the global computer outage. Hospital staffers in New York and Boston said they were unable to access some medical records or were having trouble figuring out where to send critically ill patients, as several operating rooms had been shut down. The outage also led to massive travel disruptions. Nearly 4,300 flights have been canceled worldwide. Thousands more have been hit with major delays. We're going to keep you updated on that story. Coming up in the next hour of Deadline White House, Trump's speech last night almost had all the hits: ad hominem attacks, rants about Hannibal Lecter. What was missing, though? His dark authoritarian vision for the country should he get reelected. We're going to talk about it right after this quick break. Don't go anywhere.
When you're a small business owner, your to-do list can be a lot. That's why Progressive makes it easy to save with a commercial auto quote online, so you can take on all your other to-dos.
Already did.
See if you could save at progressivecommercial.com.
Gusto has been named the #1 small business payroll software by G2, NerdWallet, and Tech Republic, and Business.org, PC Mag, and Business.com. But what really makes Gusto special is our customers. They'll always be our #1. We make payroll, benefits, and HR less painful, so running your business is more joyful. Join 300,000 businesses already working with Gusto at gusto.com.
Switch to Shopify so you can build it better, scale it faster, and sell more. Much more. Take your business to the next stage when you switch to Shopify.
This is the best anti-aging serum I've ever used. Chabula Serum by True Botanicals. It targets 5 signs of aging. I'm completely obsessed. You have to try it.
Shop Nordstrom or TrueBotanicals.com for 2 free gifts.
At over $4 a blade, shaving every day gets expensive. Harry's 5-blade razor offers me a close, comfortable shave. Best part, refills are as low as $2 each, half of what I paid before.
Go to harrys.com/shave to claim your $7 trial.
HomeAglow just cleaned my entire house for $19. No, seriously, $19. They showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry. They even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeAglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
Your loved ones are getting older, and they need your support. Care.com is here to help. It's an easy way to find background-checked senior caregivers in your area and some peace of mind. See why millions of families have trusted Care. Go to Care.com now.
He's talking about removing more than 10 million people from this country who have been here, many of them since they were little children, contribute to this society, contribute to this economy, live in all of our neighborhoods and communities. And now we're throwing balloons around as if this is a party. He talked about the Democrats, again, cheating. Cheat was the word he used in the last election, after saying he was here to unify the nation. And it's a bizarre feeling that I'm not sure I'm able to fully articulate right now. They're painting it as a party, but it is a deeply divisive message, any way you want to look at it.
Hi again, everybody. It is 5 o'clock now in New York. I'm Ayman Mohideen in today for Nicolle.